Rev up your engines! Welcome to Wacky Wednesdays, where everyone has a chance to show off their car mods. And here's this week's winner.
I know exactly what you're thinking. This looks like a child's toy. You know what? You're right. That's what it is. Let me start by saying thank you to Scotty Kilmer for featuring me on his channel yet again. He's been a huge help at getting my content out there, which isn't easy. Today I'll be showing off my 2012 Subaru Impreza WRX and the audio and performance modifications that I've made. My WRX sits between my old school Acuras pretty well, albeit a little out of place, but this gives me the chance to get that new car feeling without all that new car tech getting in the way. The Legend makes for the perfect Sunday car, while the Integra acts as my daily driver, and this is for when I want to be a total lunatic. It helps fill the gaps for performance where the other two fall short. I was very happy with this car as it was stock for about 5 years of owning it, but then I decided to make some necessary changes. Some of these upgrades were by choice, and some, I guess you can say, I was forced into. I babied this for 57,000 miles, but of course, I was one of the lucky ones who had complete engine failure due to shoddy manufacturing on Subaru's part. All 2012 to 2017 EJ255 engines are subject to the issue, which can carry contaminated oil and metal debris throughout the entire engine. Luckily, I was directed to DDA Tuned in Newburgh, New York, and I was told that if anybody can help me, it's these guys. And luckily I found these guys since Brandon is a Subaru genius and he was able to rebuild my motor. Tell me what's going on inside this thing.
So to start, we utilized the DDA Stage 2 engine with King Racing bearings for improved oil flow, Manley Platinum pistons for the higher boost levels, and Manley H-beam rods to support the additional torque as well as any additional power upgrades that may come down the line. This thing's putting down an impressive 350 horsepower to the wheels or 400 to the crank. While it may not sound like much, this thing's making more horsepower per liter than a Lamborghini Huracan or a Nissan GTR. Like any street car that needs to be able to get the groceries with the additional track day thrown in here or there, reliability is always the #1 concern. To help keep things cool, we fitted this car with a Grimspeed top mount intercooler. Some ID 1050X fuel injectors and an AM 320 fuel pump help to support the additional boost that we're packing into this thing.
And Brandon, let me just thank you and DDA Tune for your meticulous work.
Absolutely, man.
So after everything Brandon explained, what does that equate to as far as the drive? Well, I'll show you. It equates to fun. Since I'm a bit of an audiophile, and since the stock stereo is absolutely horrendous, I completely revamped it. Sitting up front is a Pioneer 4200 NEX head unit, which has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I like this one specifically because the buttons are located on the bottom, thus giving you a slightly bigger screen size. The 13-band equalizer allows you to really fine-tune your audio, and for when you park in those extra shady places, you can remove the face altogether. 6 RCAs are run from the head unit to the back to a well-hidden JL Audio 5-channel amp, the XD705V2. Since I still wanted to treat the car like a hatch, I opted to hide it down here by cutting this styrofoam mold out and sanding it down a little bit. This provides 100 watts to each speaker at 2 ohms with 300 watts going to the subwoofer. This has an advanced protection rollback feature which will dial back its performance based on heat and then shut off if it gets way too hot. So far, keeping it under here, I haven't had any problems. For the doors, I went with Infinity Kappa 6.5s. Components in the front, coaxials in the back. I ran 14-gauge speaker cable to handle the additional power, but the hardest part of that was getting it through the door loom. Dish soap made the run a little bit easier while drying up with no mess, but getting the door loom back on in the front was near impossible. Enough wiggling and jiggling after an hour, and I finally got it. For bass, I normally cheap out because bass is bass, right? Wrong. This time I went with a JL Audio 10W6V3. And I've never had tighter low-end sound in my entire life. This has dual voice coils, and I put a $20 speaker grill on it, which I thought was a bit overpriced, but the dent on the front shows it clearly saved the $600 speaker at least once. To prevent this thing from moving around while I'm shifting and moving in hard turns, I simply screwed some cheap Velcro right on the bottom. The poor man's solution, I call it. I lined each of the doors with something called Buzzy Space. It's meant for office buildings to be lined on walls for sound deadening. It made for the perfect sound absorber and rattle reducer, with the door tightly clicking back on when I reassembled everything. Not only does it help the overall sound from the stereo, but it also helps road noise as well. Lastly, to maintain steering wheel controls, I went with the iDataLink Maestro RR. A little bit confusing to wire in at first, but after discarding the 50 or so unused wires, it wasn't that difficult. After all this, I finally have myself a system worth listening to. Let me see if I can show you the clarity. I'm going to bust my friend's band Eye the Fire to see how it sounds. Yeah. You can easily say this is nothing special, but after the money I spent, it's special to me. It's extremely hard at times to say that it was worth it until I get back behind the wheel. Then the smile it gives me is the best proof of its value. However, this isn't exactly the best setup for daily use, so if you want to see a full review on how this drives as a regular car, some more performance bits, and some antics, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Altech1. I'll be posting in a couple of weeks after my much-needed vacation. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me thank Scotty Kilmer and his awesome audience for the tremendous support, and thank you for watching.
Well, that was this week's video, and to have your car mod shown on my channel here, check this out. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.